Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What Am I Thinking? A podcast where two sisters share uplifting conversations on fun and sometimes serious topics.
Join us each week by clicking the notification bell and subscribing to our channel. If you enjoy the show, use the share link. It's one of the best ways to expand the conversation.
Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What am I thinking? Well, what I'm thinking today relates to, I guess what it may sum up to is maybe racial insensitivity. There are a couple of cases and things going on that have kind of made me a little sad. I'm not sure if you all heard about it, but it happened in Bridgeport, Connecticut, December 12th. On the same day, December 12th, in the same town, two African-American females were both found dead. One, Lauren Smith Fields, was found, the person, she had met this person on Bumble, and he called the police the next morning and said that he woke up and found her deceased next to him. And the police arrive, take his story as the gospel, and he wasn't even considered a person of interest. And even if you can set that aside, the family was notified of her death by the landlord of the building, not anybody in law enforcement, which I don't understand how that could even, it makes no sense. But then on that same day in this same town, and I want to say the same officers, I believe, because only two officers have been suspended, and the supervising officer over them has either retired or resigned. So I believe I'm safe in saying it was the same two officers that found Brenda Lee Rawls deceased. And there is no person of interest, I don't believe, in that case. And the families have, rightfully so, lost faith in that law enforcement agency to be the ones investigating. Mm-hmm. Because if this is the way you handle it in the beginning, and we're saying this happened on December 12th, and here we are,
February 2nd.
Right. And light didn't get shined on it until sometimes mid-January, and I believe they were suspended like January 24th or something like that. So it's all very disheartening. And so part of the conversation about what am I thinking is, how does this happen? You know, to lose a loved one is difficult in and of itself, regardless of the circumstances. But to lose a loved one and see the agency that is supposed to be, it's their job to find out what happened and to investigate and to do their due diligence. And when that doesn't happen, and, you know, I feel some kind of way when I feel a salesperson doesn't does a disservice by me in the way they handle, you know, providing a service to me. But this is their family member. This is their loved one whose death seems to have not even registered enough for them to contact the family.
It's not unlike, and her name, it escapes me right now. Mm-hmm. The young lady and her boyfriend that were in the apartment. She was a paramedic.
Oh, in Kentucky.
Yeah,
Breonna Taylor.
Breonna, yeah. You know how I think it was this year, the police officers that were involved in this finally are being held accountable to what happened that day. How many years has it been since that happened?
So have they done something new in that case?
It's something new, yes.
Okay, because we remember the incident with the district attorney, not the grand jury that he convened. They did not come back with, they came back with some charges about shots being fired into the neighboring apartments.
Okay.
And they charged an officer related to that. But, and I have not been paying close attention to the news in the past few weeks because, you know, I have to take my breathers away from news. So I may have missed something. But, yeah, it was very disappointing with the outcome of that and him being a protege of Mitch McConnell. And so all of that, it just got muddy. And it's like, this should not have, it should have been a clear cut case of the police going to the wrong apartment and having a very, very fatal outcome. And they should have just done what was right. And number one, told the truth at the outset, which they didn't, because if you tell the truth, then we don't have this kind of feeling of, you know, injustice, you know?
It reminds me of, first off, I do believe that our men and women in blue are essential.
For sure.
Every community, not only in the United States, but those who serve in policing communities around the world. They are essential. And you want to be able to trust that when you pick up the phone and call them, that they are going to do the right thing. But there seems to be this pattern that we're seeing where the right thing may be done depending on your race, and they may come to conclusions very quickly, not necessarily supported by evidence, if you are of another race.
It's true.
Too many things seem to be getting dismissed, whereas in other cases, the Gabby Petito, now that was botched too from the very beginning.
It was
botched from the very beginning. And we even have a roadside police officer turning his video cam over. And it's like red flag, red flag.
I know.
But in the aftermath of that, immediately when they realized, we made a mistake, everybody and their brother was trying to fix it, was trying to find answers.
Right.
But it sounds like in this Bridgeport case, it was like, let's sweep it under the rug. Let's nail that rug down.
Until the families began to speak out and there was public outcry. Yeah. And then even the mayor, when he finally spoke up, I think one of the family members from Brenda Lee Raw's family was like, too little too late. Why did it take you this long? And it had been, you know, like she said, over a month since they were deceased. And so it's, as I say, I can't say it enough, it's very disheartening that in 2022 we're still getting it wrong. We're still getting it wrong. And, you know, I have been trained as auxiliary security force through the military. So I understand all about adrenaline rush. I understand about the heightened things that happens when calls happen. And I also have trained police officers through my time working with Abused Women's Services. I have tried to train them on things they should look out for and how to respond to domestic violence calls. And I understand that one of the things they told me was, when they come to a scene, the person who is talking most calmly, explaining themselves most clearly, that's what they're going to hear. And I would always, when I would work with clients who were survivors, and because we always still try to give them lessons learned, because unfortunately we know that it could be up higher now, but when I worked in the field, it took them 8 times before they would leave for good to get out of a domestic violence situation. And so there is a chance they were probably going to go back. So we would talk to them. If you call the police, make sure that you take it from a 10 to about a 1 or a 2. Because if you are over here flailing, hollering, screaming, whose story is going to get heard? His story. So I can imagine them coming on the scene where Lauren Smith Fields lay dead, and this person who called the police, in their mind, well, he didn't try to cover it up, and is telling them this very believable story and probably talking about a drug-filled night and all these things. You haven't talked to the person's family. You don't know if she has never touched drugs a day in her life. You have no idea how those drugs got in her system. But this person was able to convince you because of the way they sounded, the way they appeared, and probably who you felt them to be.
It's almost like I want to just give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to say that you purposely ignored certain things or did not do certain things that you should have when you were investigating the death of this young woman.
23 years old.
But even if that's the case, when now you have family coming forward and they're painting a completely different picture, now you have to step back, and I don't care what you wrote in your little notebook, you've got to question everything, all the information that you gathered on that day, because something's not adding up.
So let's talk about the sad part of that. There was no crime scene set up.
Oh, boy.
Evidence has not been preserved. Insult to injury, when the family did have officers' numbers to call, those officers never returned their calls, they said. Never returned their calls. So to say they've lost confidence in that system and want either the state police or the FBI or somebody else to take over, I understand that. But they're starting at such a huge disadvantage because they were not set up as crime. Now, I'm not sure about Brenda Lee Rawls, if her situation, if they do have that evidence preserved and if they'll be able to come to a better outcome, but it will be very difficult with Miss Smith Fields because they didn't preserve the crime scene.
Preserve it.
They probably didn't take his clothes into evidence. They should have, at a minimum, took him down to the station, processed him, did, check what's in his system. You know what I mean? If you have this person over here who has all these drugs in her system, maybe he's got nothing in his. That should tell you something, right? She's not partnering with a sober person and she's the only one,
The funny thing about it is, like, and this is sad, as we're talking about this, I was really big on watching CSI and The Closer
well, I love The Closer.
Yeah, it's like, if I could think of all of these things that you should have done, I'm just watching a TV program.
Exactly.
This is your vocation.
Exactly.
You're supposed to know, and that is what makes it frightening. I often think, oh, dear Lord, never let me be put in a situation where I have to defend myself.
I know.
Because, especially for people of color, too often we feel that the deck has already been stacked against us.
For sure.
So it's like I'm already fighting this uphill battle. And I know how I even feel when I'm in the car and I see the police. By me. The first thing I'm checking, am I doing the speed limit?
Yes.
Am I keeping my car in between my lines?
If they're behind me, I'm going to, typically it's when I'm in the left lane, I'm going to get to the right and let them go about their merry way. I really don't, it is not something that I enjoy having the police driving. And even when I know I'm a very cautious driver and I'm, but it's still one of those things. But the thing that comes to mind for me is they have to come into these situations without prejudging them. And that's why the training that they get and how they're taught to interact, and why, if you are living in a community that you don't police and the community that you live in looks nothing like the community that you police, that's why that can be a problem.
And it also is, years ago, maybe even decades, the reason the police officer knew which house was the drug house, who was the junkie,
right,
was because they lived there.
Who had the special needs,
yes,
and who you know, you've got to know the people in the community that you serve, and you've got to care enough to see each person as a human being and not as a black female or not as anything but a human being first and foremost. And if we can get to that place, I know it's hard to say put your values, your stereotypes, your prejudgments on the shelf, but that's really what's required in order to be able to avoid some of these travesties that happen. So a sad look at law enforcement, and we didn't even get into the way missing children of color and just people of color in general who are missing, how that doesn't get any news or press, and how it's I think I saw a snippet of something on the news about a woman being they found her killed, and now they're looking for like an infant child
I
or
saw that
something.
this morning.
And so I was grateful that it's on the news, but will that make national news? A baby that size, do you know how easily somebody can get away with that child and never be found? That should be something that should be on the national news. I don't even know if I saw Amber Alert on it.
My phone is set for Amber Alert, and
I don't even think I got an Amber Alert on that. And so it's things like that we've still got so much work to do. So, you know, as far as we have come, we've still got so much further to go. And but I'm going to be hopeful and I'm going to be optimistic. And in saying that, we want you to continue to go on this journey with us as we share what we're thinking on the W.A.I.T channel. Please like the episodes, subscribe, go back and listen to some past episodes, and just know that you can comment and share your thoughts and opinions with us, and we would love to have you continue on this journey with us. So thank you for tuning in, and we will talk to you and tell you what we are thinking next time.